people on, 9 people online.
Anyone raise their hand or?
I don't know. I heard that. Could you read it? Yeah, if anyone would like to make public comment, please use the raise your hand feature.
Okay, going once, twice. No public comment, okay, moving on. Okay, regarding Board of Ed, Russell,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Board of Education budget in the amount of $35,608,655.
do I have a second?
Second.
The discussion, we'll start with Ted.
Is that the full amount? I don't have the. What are you cutting?
The difference is is over, just shy of 800,000.
What's that?
The cut is just shy of 800,000.
Can we find out what?
792,000.
What's that?
We'll be reducing the proposed Board of Ed budget
Yes.
by 792,000.
Can I ask what was cut?
Well,
We haven't cut anything.
we can't direct line items or anything like that.
Are there many line items or just one?
No, not many, like, we're not authorized to do line items. However, we did look at, things like, and Russell, I think you can talk about, the number one thing that pops in my head is the medical, the reduction there, originally budgeted, what is it, 12%,
and went to 7%.
right?
Okay, that makes sense.
Anything else you want to add?
No, I'm only one vote, so I know what's gonna happen. So, I'll let it go,
That's not really much yet. Russell, any comment?
So I just prepared a short statement, so. So when the Board of Education first proposed their budget, they estimated the medical insurance costs at approximately 12%. And that was understandable at the time, based on what was known and what was to be projected. And the pension defined contribution was 10.5%. So the actual increases came in, and the medical, for example, was at 7.1%. And I understand what Paul Smith, the superintendent, wanted to do. He recommended taking that cost savings and, saving it for a rainy day, if you will, applying it to other accounts. But, and with me in the room, he did pledge that if he doesn't spend it, he'll give it back. But it's not so easy. So, to get money back to the taxpayers once it's been collected, there's not a strong mechanism or an easy mechanism to do that. And so I favor more of the method that rather than collect it from the taxpayers, let's let them keep it. And if the Board of Education needs it at some point, then they can come back to us. And we're like we did last year with the armed security officers to give additional funding for an unexpected expense. So, just some short calculations, between what was originally calculated for the medical insurance and the pension contribution, it's about $290,000 that I think that we can easily return and save for the taxpayers. So I'm also further concerned about the future costs that the town will incur for the Board of Education that are being forced upon us through no fault of the local Board of Education, but by the General Assembly in Hartford at the state level. And to think strategically for a little bit, we need to consider those long-term costs and what's going to happen to us, whether it's for the mandates upon us for curriculums. And again, as what was pointed out, that the reading curriculum is only the first, and there's potentially more along the way. And we talked about sending a message to the General Assembly, message to Hartford, and certainly a lot of us have worked on this board in the past to make changes in Hartford. But I think we need to send the message as well that we're just not going to accept those expenses and just pass them along and apply them to the taxpayers because they said so. We need to take action, and we need to take a look at where we're spending now in anticipation of what we're going to have to spend in the future. I do believe that the Board of Education members do have the best interests of our children at heart, and that the power to implement curriculum and to negotiate contracts should remain and be retained at their level. And it's just unfair, unjust, and undemocratic for it to be forced upon us at by the General Assembly and by Harvard. Another concern is just the price of everything that's going up. The costs are rising for everybody. I understand that the cost for the Board of Education and to teach our children and educate our children is going up, but just looking at some basic reports, CNN reported that food costs have spiked at 11.4% over the past year, the largest increase since 1979. For the basics, milk, bread, and eggs, they have risen 17%, 23%, 39.8% respectively. CNN also reported that home heating fuel has increased nationwide at 18%. And doing a little bit deeper dive, a WTNH report showed that the price of heating oil in Connecticut on January 2nd, 2023 was $4.52.7 per gallon compared to $2.35.1 in January of 2021, a 92.6% increase over 2 years. It's unsustainable for homeowners to just continue this trend of increasing costs, whether it's the cost of doing business, the cost of maintaining their home, and the cost of paying taxes. So the Board of Education increase that we are sending to the town council may not be as large as they have requested, but is still the largest single increase dollars-wise in the history of the town. So as the Board of Finance, I think we need to take into consideration not just the increased cost of educating our children, but all of the increases the taxpayers of this town are facing in their daily lives. It is our responsibility to see cost savings wherever and whenever that we can. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. You have anything to add?
No, I think Russell captured it all.
Lynn?
A little bit, the Board of Education budget, continues to increase at an alarming rate, alarming to me. While the school population decreases over the past 5 years. The enrollment has decreased 108 students, and over the same period of time, their budget has increased 12.88%. This year, the proposed increase was a 5.94%, which is almost half of what it increased over the past 5 years. Like Russell, I'm not optimistic about the economy and the ability of the taxpayers to weather the economic storm. Taxpayers are being forced to make choices when they fill up their car, when they go to the grocery store, just when they turn on the heat, it's needs versus wants. And I think our education system might have to make some tough choices. That's it.
Rich?
No further comments.
Okay. Can I have a vote on this?
All in favor?
Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Drawing a blank.
Opposed?
Opposed? We kind of already had yours, but we have to go through the process. Thank you. Okay.
I move in the amount of $95,316 to reduce the police patrol budget by $105,310 and the employee benefit budget line by $28,500 to eliminate the new senior center staffing request and reduce the senior center budget by $23,750 and the employee benefit line by $28,500. To reduce the Board of Finance Department Professional Services line item by $1,500. To reduce the assessors other purchase services line item by $10,000. Reduce the ambulance contribution donation line item by $173,910. And lastly, to reduce the general fund contribution to the capital services fund, capital reserve fund in the amount of $124,500 as recommended by the capital committee.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Ted?
It's shocking. That's shocking. Police department deserves a lieutenant. The Connecticut mandate. And, we've got one person working on it, and he's also the chief of police. It's shocking that you're not funding the lieutenant.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah,
Ted?
actually, we are
We're
funding.
funding.
We are funding.
But I thought I heard.
That was not the total amount that he asked for in his budget. We are funding the lieutenant.
It's not the additional officer that the
Correct.
lieutenant would replace.
All right, then I'm wrong then. I'm glad that you are funding the lieutenant.
Yes.
It's long overdue. I misinterpreted what you said. As far as the rest of the town budget, I think the Park and Rec does a great job, and I hope we're not cutting anything from that. I don't know. It's shocking. They have a very lean budget. It's not excessive. The capital plan, I wish it is okay. I wish the cold storage building was funded. It's not. Are we funding the ambulance?
No.
At this point, I think we're looking for direction from the town council to decide what direction the town wants to go in.
Well,
Right now, the ambulance has a healthy bank account and is in no danger of shortage of funds to fulfill their mission at this point. So until we know what direction the town wants to go in, I think it's kind of foolish to fund money for something, again, we're not sure if we need it or not. Let's see what the town council decides to do. They have several different directions they can do. They're the policy-making board in this town. Let's see what the town council decides, and then we can decide to fund it.
I think we partially get to decide that too. I don't think it's just the town council. I think the ambulance association's done a great job for all those years.
I agree.
They came one time this year. For a 7-year allocation. And it gives them the flexibility for the next 7 years. They can run their ambulance association, give us great service. And we're in it.
Yeah.
Not quite done yet. How can you look at these people out here, all volunteers, been volunteering for years and years and years, and here they come into this board asking for a minuscule amount of money for the amount of work they do? How can we turn them down? I look out there and I see people that I know, people I play golf with, and you know what? They go to meetings and they run that ambulance association, and it's just as good as any other town, and probably better. And here they are, just one time, coming for some money over a 7-year period. I can't agree with that one iota, not one letter of the word you guys are talking about. I respect your opinion, but I don't know how you can look at these people out here and not give them the money they need over 7 years.
Ted, I agree with you. I think they do a wonderful job. They're very dedicated
But
individuals.
don't give them any money.
Ted, if they needed, if there was a danger of the ambulance shutting down next week because of shortage of funds, we would be there to fund them, to keep them open and operating. Their bank account is sufficient to cover a whole lot more than $173,000. Thank you very much. So it's not a crisis situation. It's more important that the town plan for what's going to happen. What happens next year? What happens next 10 years? We need to make sure we're going down the right path and we're funding the right path.
They need the flexibility in the next 7 years. Why not give it to them and give them a pat on the back for all that it's done?
Well,
Instead of us saying, okay, come back next year, we'll kick the can down the road next year, year after that, and so on. I just think it's a shame that we're not giving them the money. That's my final comment.
Ted, there's a whole lot of people in this town that do wonderful things. We can't just dish money out willy-nilly to everybody who does wonderful things. Yes, I agree that the ambulance association should be commended for their dedication and service. Yes, I agree with you 100%. Let's make sure that the ambulance association is with us 10, 15 years from now by making any changes that may be necessary, if changes are necessary. And let's plan. Let's make sure that we're doing the right thing. Right now, it's being discussed, it's being looked at, and no final decision that I know of has been made at this point. So why are we jumping to fund something that we don't know what's happening?
Disagree, but,
Okay,
I'm one of five here.
agree to disagree, Ted. Thank you.
Anyone else?
My turn. So I'm glad that we're funding the lieutenant. I do wish that we were funding more, but it's unfair to say that we need to fund everything when we can't, as my comments in, regarding the Board of Education, but budget demonstrate. I do think it's extremely important that we have a lieutenant position. I'm a firm believer in the strength of having a solid number two in place, whether it's to act in the place of the chief when it's time to, or it's a succession plan, or it's more importantly, it's those day-to-day administrative things that lieutenant's going to have to do to ensure that, again, that we comply with all of the regulations and mandates that are being put upon us by higher authority. So I just want to say I'm on the record that I do support the lieutenant, and at some point, we can take a look at that next officer position or the detective position, as the chief has stated, but those are down the road. Regarding the ambulance, my concern about that was just how it was being funded, this particular request, and that was as a donation. And we just need to work out some of the details. We need to hear more from the town council and their intent, and work out a plan for the future that funds them adequately and appropriately with safeguards in place on how that happens. So that's my comments. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm in support, of the lieutenant position as well. One thing I'm disappointed in through this whole process, one of the challenges at the tri-board meeting, that was given out was for people in the town to look at doing things differently. Even if it meant regionalizing, consolidation, outsourcing, and not one person stepped up. To me, that's not how you run a business. That's not how you should run a town. So it was very disappointing from that perspective. We are here to support what's best for the taxpayers and guarding their money and using it wisely. As far as the ambulance, I think it's the right approach now to have a concrete plan and direction. Throwing money, a pot of money, does not solve anything. A solid plan and strategy will. I'll say.
Further comment?
Let's see. Okay, first of all, address the lieutenant position. I was not in favor of the lieutenant position, but it's incorporated in this budget, and I am in favor of this budget. And the reason is moving a sergeant to lieutenant would take an officer off the street. And to me, that's not in the interest of public safety. And that was just from questioning the chief at our workshop. And I, can't deny what he said. Question about Parks and Rec, we're not taking anything from Parks and Rec, just to let you know that it was brought up and we're not taking anything from Parks and Rec. Let's see. The ambulance, I agree with the comments that, a broader decision needs to be made. And it needs to be made, in a timely manner. But it's not our position here to fund it to fund anything until there's a, larger decision that's been made. That's all my comments on the town budget. Thank you.
Rich,
No further comments, thank you.
all in favor? Aye. All again, opposed? Okay. Moving on.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend to the town council the fiscal year 2024 capital improvement plan as recommended by the capital committee with the following changes. To eliminate the Board of Education school transportation vehicle, $45,000 item, and to eliminate the building department vehicle, a $30,000 item.
Second.
Discussion, Ted,
No comment.
Russell, one comment?
No comment. I'm glad to see that we're still funding IT to the level that we are. Thank you.
No comment.
On the elimination of the, Board of Education vehicle, it was to, transport special education students. And, they predicted that it would, save funds, and it was never, we were never told exactly how much it would save, but that line item is 588,000 in the Board of Ed budget. And, we're hoping that some of those funds could be saved through the use of the, Youth and Family Services van, which is a beautiful new van. And, used very little, and they think they could come to an agreement and save funds that way.
The other item that was removed from the capital budget was the building department vehicle. And the rationale for that is that the building department has always received a hand-me-down vehicle from most of the time a police vehicle that has been replaced in a police fleet. And with the local travel that the building department uses it for, a hand-me-down vehicle has worked for these many years. It was felt that a new vehicle, a new pickup truck for $30,000 would be difficult to get at that price, and was unnecessary, that we could again use a hand-me-down vehicle. If a ladder needed to be carried by the vehicle, a rack could be provided and utilized for that vehicle.
No comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.